The massive wormhole tears itself apart in a spectacular light show that illuminates 3 star systems simultaneously. Earth's communication with its colonies abruptly terminates as the quantum relays fail one by one. Dr. Eliza Chen watches in horror from Outpost Sigma as the last transmission from Earth cuts mid-sentence. "We'll find a way to." Then silence. The emergency protocols engage without hesitation. Outpost Sigma's AI assistant, ARIA, begins cataloging all remaining data connections, while Dr. Chen frantically attempts to re-establish the quantum link. Her fingers dance across the holographic interface, leaving trails of blue light in their wake. Nothing responds. "ARIA, give me status on all neighboring colonies," she demands, her voice steady despite the growing hollow sensation in her chest. No response from Alpha Centauri. No response from Proxima Station. No response from Luna Base. No response from Mars Coalition. Aria's synthetic voice maintains its usual calm, betraying none of the panic spreading through the outpost's crew. Outside the command center's panoramic windows, the stars remain indifferent to humanity's crisis. The habitation ring of Outpost Sigma continues its slow rotation, generating the artificial gravity that keeps the 200 human researchers and support staff grounded. Most of them have family back in the Sol system. Most of them have just lost everything. Commander Jackson steps beside Chen, his dark features illuminated by the emergency lighting. "Council vessels are changing course. They're heading our way." The Galactic Council wastes no time. Within days, a delegation of Viridian and Althean representatives dock at Outpost Sigma. They bring not aid but declarations. Their translucent skin and elongated features betray no emotion as they announce humanity's tragic extinction to the assembled humans. The catastrophic collapse of the Sol wormhole network indicates a terminal event in your home system, the Viridian ambassador explains, multifaceted eyes reflecting the stunned faces of the outpost crew. The Council extends its deepest sympathies for this unprecedented loss. Dr. Chen steps forward. "We need rescue ships, not condolences. There are billions of humans in the Sol system." The Althean representatives' tentacle-like appendages ripple in what passes for a sympathetic gesture among their kind. The wormhole collapse created quantum disruptions that would make conventional travel to your home system impossible for several centuries. "We regret to inform you that those left behind are beyond reach." Behind closed doors on their return journey, the representatives toast to the elimination of their greatest competitor. Ancient Viridian Admiral Zax Tuard examines the star charts of former human space and smiles thinly. All that potential wasted on such a short-lived species. His Althean counterpart gestures to the displays showing human outposts and colonies. The Council will establish a protection directive for ecological and cultural preservation. Of course, Zax Tuard agrees smoothly. We must preserve what remains of human achievement. Within weeks, the Council announces the Human Heritage Protection Act, effectively seizing control of all human territories, until such time as Earth can re-establish contact. The scattered human outposts and colonies find themselves under administrative guidance from Council species. Their technology is cataloged as cultural artifacts. Their innovations are preserved in Council repositories. On Outpost Sigma, now redesignated as Human Heritage Site Alpha, Dr. Chen stares at the stars from her laboratory, now supervised by a Viridian cultural attaché. The quantum communications array she designed has been partially dismantled for safety reasons. The research that might have helped re-establish contact with Earth sits abandoned. 2 centuries minimum, they said, she whispers to herself, entering a notation in her personal log. Then we'll see Earth again. Her eyes drift to the small portable quantum entanglement device hidden beneath her workstation. The Council representatives hadn't recognized it for what it was, a prototype not yet in the official records. "We have time," she whispers, "and they've underestimated us before." Dr. Emira Najam's fingers freeze over her console as the anomalous signal repeats for the 3rd time. The pattern is unmistakable. a modified Fibonacci sequence that served as humanity's emergency broadcast protocol. 200 years after the collapse, such signals should be impossible. The xenorchaeology lab around her hums with the quiet efficiency of Viridian technology. Holographic displays show artifacts recovered from abandoned human outposts, each meticulously tagged and categorized. To the Viridians, these are merely cultural curiosities. To Emira, they represent her lost heritage. She glances at her reflection in the polished surface of her workstation. Her human eyes, a warm brown she inherited from her grandfather, stare back at her from an otherwise Viridian passing face. The genetic modifications her parents chose had given her the opalescent skin and enhanced respiration of the dominant species, but nothing could change those eyes. In the academy, they had marked her as different. In her profession, they made her an expert on human artifacts, rather than a full xenorchaeologist. The signal pulses again. 4 times now. Same pattern, same frequency, originating from deep space near the old Earth transit corridor. Emira begins recording the data when the lab doors slide open with a soft hiss. Director Thax enters, his tall frame casting a long shadow across her workstation. The characteristic scent of cinnamon and disdain accompanies him. Working late again, Dr. Najim. His vocal harmonics suggest professional interest, but the subtle tightening of his tertiary breathing membranes betrays his suspicion. Just cataloging some unusual energy signatures, Director. She casually switches her display to show a collection of human communication devices. These old transmitters sometimes release residual energy. Director Thax leans closer, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the screen in dozens of tiny duplications. Another artifact glitch, Dr. Najim. Perhaps your human heritage makes you see ghosts where there are none. His condescension doesn't mask his unease as he straightens. The Preservation Council is concerned about your frequent late hours. Your genetic makeup requires more rest than pure Viridians. I'll wrap up shortly, she promises. See that you do. He gestures at her terminal. And I'm restricting your deep space scanning access. These systems aren't meant for personal projects. After he leaves, Emira sits motionless, counting her breaths until she's certain he won't return. The signal has disappeared from her official terminal, but she had already copied the key parameters to her personal data crystal. Hours later, in her modest living quarters in the liminal district, where partial humans and other hybrid citizens reside, Emira analyzes the signal through her unofficial terminal. The Council prohibited human design technology, but the black market thrived on modified versions that slipped through classification protocols. Her personal communicator activates without command, a holographic emblem she hasn't seen since childhood. Earth's United Continents rotates above her bed. The light casts blue shadows across her small room, illuminating the illegal collection of human artifacts she's salvaged over the years. A paper book, a mechanical watch, a small potted plant descended from Earth stock. Beneath the emblem, coordinates appear, followed by a message. We survived in the dark. We evolved in isolation. We're coming home. Emira's breath catches. The transmission signature contains quantum markers that match those in the ancient human military protocols she studied, protocols that shouldn't exist anymore. She reaches for the communicator, hesitating just above the hologram. Responding would violate every council directive. It would confirm her lifelong suspicion that the collapse wasn't the end of Earth. It would also mark her as a traitor to the Viridian society that raised her. Her human eyes reflect the rotating Earth emblem as she makes her choice. Transmission acknowledge, she whispers. Who are you? The emblem pulses once before a response appears. We are the ones they thought gone forever. Prepare for our return. Commander Zell Thorne of the Althean Defense Force spills his ritual morning tea as the alert sounds. The cerulean liquid spreads across his command console, seeping between the tactile interface nodes. He barely notices as the monitoring station erupts into activity. Unidentified spatial anomaly detected in Sector 7, announces his sensor officer, 4 of her tentacles manipulating the detection grid while the 5th brings up historical scan data. Energy signature matches nothing in our database. Zelthorn straightens his ceremonial collar and steps toward the main view screen. The outpost, positioned on the edge of former human space, serves primarily as a customs checkpoint and archaeological supervision station. Nothing interesting happens here, which is exactly why Zelthorn's superiors assigned him to this remote post after his excessive questioning during the Procyon incident. "Display anomaly," he orders. The screen fills with darkness at first, then a pinpoint of swirling blue-white energy expands. The anomaly grows larger, its edges perfectly controlled in a way that natural phenomena never are. "That appears to be an artificial wormhole," Zelthorn says quietly, his dorsal crest rising in alarm. "That's technologically impossible since the collapse." "Sir," the communications officer interrupts, "we're detecting ships emerging from the anomaly." One by one, vessels materialize from the swirling portal. They move with uncanny precision, their hulls bearing unfamiliar geometries, but distinctly human aesthetic touches, clean lines, practical design, and a certain artistic flair that no council species ever fully understood. 17 vessels detected, reports the tactical officer, her skin paling to a distressed lavender. Configuration unknown, but design elements suggest human origin. "Impossible," Zelthorn whispers, even as his inner membranes constrict with ancestral fear. The ancient Althian texts spoke of human ingenuity with both respect and dread. Humans have been gone for 2 centuries. His weapons officer's tentacles hover over the defense grid activation. "Sir, they've bypassed our primary frequency locks. They're accessing our communication systems." Before Zelthorn can respond, the main view screen activates. The ships vanish, replaced by the image of a human woman with steel-gray hair pulled back in a simple style. Her uniform bears no insignia recognizable to council records, but the confidence in her posture speaks of authority. Most striking are her eyes. They reflect 2 centuries of struggle, determination, and something else Zelthorn can't quite identify. Pride, perhaps, or vindication. This is Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Reclamation Fleet. She announces in perfect Althian, her translation systems apparently requiring no adjustment period. "We come in peace, but we will not be turned away. Humanity has returned to reclaim its birthright." Zelthorn's secondary heart begins beating rapidly. "This is Commander Zelthorn of the Althian Defense Force. Your presence here is unexpected. Humanity was believed extinct after the collapse." Admiral Chen's smile contains no warmth. "Reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated, Commander. We've spent 2 centuries rebuilding beyond the reach of those who thought us gone." "The Council must be informed," Zelthorn says, struggling to maintain diplomatic protocol, while his tactical officers silently indicate that the human vessels have already established a defensive perimeter around the station. Their positioning is perfect, not threatening, but rendering any aggressive action futile. "They already have been," Admiral Chen replies. "While we speak, diplomatic envoys are arriving at 17 Council worlds simultaneously. The Council believed us scattered and broken. They were wrong. We adapted. We evolved. And now we've returned." The impossible truth dawns on Zelthorn. The humans didn't just survive. They thrived beyond the reach of those who thought them extinguished. And judging by the technological marvel of their controlled wormhole technology, they've returned with capabilities that might reshape the power structure of the entire galaxy. "What are your intentions?" he asks, already knowing the Council's carefully maintained narratives about humanity are about to crumble. "First," Admiral Chen says, her expression softening slightly, "I'd like to discuss the return of what was taken from us." The Galactic Council chamber erupts into chaos as species representatives shout over each other. The Grand Hall, with its soaring crystal dome designed to represent unity and transparency, now resembles nothing so much as a marketplace during a solar flare warning. 2 centuries of carefully maintained narratives about humanity's tragic fate unravel in real time. The Kivith ambassador pounds her crystalline appendage against the ancient table. You assured us they were gone. She hisses at the Viridian High Chancellor, her silicon-based biology glittering with agitation. Our colony on Proxima II was established under protection of the Human Heritage Act. What happens now? The Viridian High Chancellor's multifaceted eyes reflect the worried faces surrounding him. The Act contains provisions for cultural reintegration, he says smoothly, though his tertiary breathing membranes flutter with stress. We always hoped for humanity's eventual return. Convenient revision, rumbles the Tellurian representative, his stone-like features cracking slightly to reveal the molten interior that betrays his emotional state. The Tellurian collective remembers when certain council members celebrated their absence. Across the chamber, delegations split into factions, those who benefited from humanity's absence versus those who had valued their innovation and trade. The Moran delegation, with their bird-like features and reputation for historical accuracy, consult their ancestral memory crystals and whisper among themselves. The Althean Prime Speaker raises all 6 appendages, calling for order. We must approach this development with rationality. The human fleet has made no aggressive moves. Yet, adds the Saurian representative, scales shifting color in the pattern that indicates deep suspicion. Their vessels have established strategic positions throughout Council space. They've demonstrated wormhole technology we thought impossible. What else have they developed in isolation? Outside the ornate building, crowds gather as news spreads. Council citizens from dozens of species press against the security fields, their curiosity palpable. The automated news drones capture everything, transmitting across 17 systems. Centuries-old human entertainment and cultural databases, long restricted as historical curiosities, have suddenly become the most accessed files in the Council network as citizens rush to understand the returning species. The human diplomatic shuttle enters the atmosphere with theatrical precision, its design both beautiful and subtly threatening. Unlike the utilitarian vessels of 2 centuries past, this craft incorporates organic curves and crystalline elements that pulse with inner light. It navigates the capital's airways without requiring traffic control guidance, demonstrating an autonomy that makes the security forces visibly nervous. The shuttle lands in the Council Plaza, extending landing struts that leave minimal impact on the ancient stones. The gathered crowd falls silent as the vessel's hull reconfigures itself, sections flowing like liquid metal to form an elegant exit ramp. The human delegation steps out, led by a woman whose appearance defies her age. Ambassador Sophia Okafor moves with the fluid grace of someone half her apparent years, her dark skin contrasting with the silver-white hair styled in elaborate braids that incorporate subtle technology, tiny lights that might be decorative or might be something more. She wears no environmental suit despite the atmosphere's composition being optimized for Viridian biology. Instead, a barely visible field shimmers around her, suggesting personal environmental control beyond current Council technology. She carries no weapons, but the data crystal in her hand glows with contained information. Proof of humanity's technological leap. The Council security detail approaches cautiously. The lead officer, a Drykin with impressive ceremonial armor, speaks the traditional greeting. The Galactic Council acknowledges your arrival and extends welcome to the species you thought extinct. Ambassador Okafor completes his sentence, her voice warm but unyielding. The Council has forgotten what humanity offers. Let us remind you. She ascends the grand staircase toward the Council chambers, her small delegation following with perfect composure. Above them, the human vessels maintain their positions in orbit, silent but ever-present reminders that humanity's return is not merely diplomatic. In the Council chamber, the arguments cease as the great doors swing open to admit the humans. History, everyone present realizes, is about to be rewritten. Admiral Chen guides the wide-eyed Council representatives through the U.S. Resurgence's hydroponics bay, where plants grow in impossible configurations, purifying air while producing food and medicine. The delegation includes representatives from 7 major Council species, each selected for their scientific expertise rather than political connections. Chen had insisted on this point. Show your scientists first, she had told Ambassador Okafor. Politicians only see threats. Scientists see possibilities. After the collapse, we couldn't afford to take from our environments without giving back, she explains, as verdant leaves spiral in geometric patterns that maximize light absorption while minimizing space requirements. A biological computer interface responds to her thoughts, adjusting nutrient flow and light spectrum without requiring verbal commands. The Mizari scientist, a salamander-like being with 16 sensory appendages specialized for different data inputs, extends a monitoring tendril toward a floating sphere of water in which aquatic plants grow. The water's surface tension should have broken, but some invisible force maintains its perfect spherical shape. Microgravitational field manipulation, Admiral Chen explains. The water molecules receive targeted gravitational adjustments, allowing us to create self-contained ecosystems in any configuration. Your species achieved this in isolation. The Mizari asks incredulously, all 16 sensory appendages now focused on the sphere. Chen's smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. Necessity breeds innovation, but so does betrayal. She lets the implication hang in the air before continuing. When the wormhole collapsed, our remaining scientists realized we would need to completely reimagine our relationship with our environment. Instead of conquering nature, we learned to partner with it. The delegation moves next to the ship's heart, a gravity manipulation system that doesn't just counter gravitational forces, but harmonizes with them. The central chamber contains what appears to be a miniature galaxy swirling in suspended animation, stars, and planets moving in precise orbits. This is a physical representation of our drive system, Chen explains. Traditional engines push against the universe, ours dances with it. The Viridian physicist extends a trembling hand toward the display. You've unified quantum field theory with gravitational mechanics, he whispers. We've been trying for millennia. We had motivation, Chen replies simply, and fewer distractions. The Draken military observer, mandated by the Council's security protocols, watches with professional assessment. These advancements have defensive applications, he notes, his reptilian features unreadable. Of course, Chen acknowledges without hesitation. We developed in isolation, unsure if what awaited us beyond the collapsed corridor would be friendly. Our technology serves multiple purposes: sustainability, exploration, and yes, protection. The delegation enters a final chamber where a holographic display shows the human fleet's journey. The wormhole creation technology forms the centerpiece of the presentation, a system that doesn't tear space-time but rather persuades it to reconfigure temporarily. We don't force the universe to comply, explains the ship's chief scientist, Dr. Reyes. We request its cooperation. The implications slowly dawn on the observers. Humanity doesn't just have superior technology. They have a fundamentally different relationship with physical laws. While Council species spent centuries refining existing approaches, humans had reinvented their entire technological paradigm. As the tour concludes, Admiral Chen leads the delegation to the observation deck. Earth's reclamation fleet spreads out below them, each vessel a testament to human ingenuity and persistence. Beyond them, the stars of former human space glitter with possibility. 2 centuries ago, the Council wrote our epitaph, Chen says quietly. They catalog our achievements as historical curiosities and divided our territories among themselves. They believed us gone forever. She turns to face the delegation directly. We're not here for vengeance. We're here to reclaim our place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as innovators. The Mizari scientists' appendages ripple with excitement. The advancements you've shown us could transform life throughout Council space. Yes, Chen agrees, her expression softening for the first time. That's precisely what we're counting on. Dr. Najim's hands tremble as she decrypts the ancient data core hidden beneath the Viridian Historical Institute. The building stands empty at this late hour, its ornate architecture designed to inspire reverence for history, while its systems quietly rewrite it. The irony isn't lost on her as she connects her modified scanner to the Institute's central repository. The access panel pulses with warning lights as her unauthorized code penetrates the security measures. 200 years of carefully constructed narratives about the collapse lie beyond these firewalls. The official story presented to generations of council citizens and the actual records kept by those in power. "Come on," she whispers, watching encryption patterns dissolve under her algorithms. The human-designed decryption system operates on principles the Viridians never considered, approaching security from entirely different mathematical foundations. The holographic display flickers, then stabilizes. Access granted. Files from the period immediately surrounding the collapse appear, organized by security clearance. She navigates to the highest level, where only the council inner circle would have authorization. There, a folder labeled Quantum Corridor Stability Projections. She transfers the data to her portable core, watching the progress indicator with anxious eyes. Footsteps echo through the corridor outside, but they pass by her hidden alcove without pausing. The holographic recording plays with crystal clarity despite its age. A younger Director Thax stands with Althean High Command in what appears to be a secure planning chamber. Star charts showing human expansion routes cover the walls. The wormhole destabilization will appear natural. The Althean officer states, manipulating a simulation showing the Sol system's quantum corridor. No one will suspect intervention. Thax nods, his tertiary breathing membranes expanded with excitement. Our preliminary models suggest a 94% probability of complete network collapse. Earth and its core colonies will be isolated for a minimum of 2 centuries. And the outlying human settlements? Asks another Viridian, one Najum doesn't recognize. Without Earth's technological base and leadership, they will either integrate into council supervision or fade into irrelevance. Thax replies, either way, human expansion ends. The recording continues, detailing the deliberate sabotage of humanity's wormhole network, the network that had allowed Earth to expand faster than any council race had anticipated. The cold calculation in their voices chills Najum more than the content. This wasn't a security measure. It was the deliberate crippling of a species whose only crime had been developing too quickly. Footsteps echo in the corridor outside again, closer this time. The security patrol's regular sweep. Najum transfers the data and slips the core into her pocket as the Institute's security alert begins, triggered by her extended access to restricted files. Red warning lights bathe the corridors as she moves swiftly through the building's service passages. Her heart pounds against her ribcage, a human characteristic the Viridian genetic modifications couldn't eliminate. The exit lies just ahead, a maintenance door that should bypass the main security checkpoints. She rounds a corner and collides with a figure in unmarked stealth gear. Human stealth gear. The figure steadies her, revealing features that are fully human, not hybrid like her own. Dr. Najum, we've been looking for you. 3 more humans materialize from active camouflage, their technology making even Viridian sensors unable to detect them. Admiral Chen suspected sabotage from the beginning. We need your evidence. Security drones screech overhead as Thax's voice booms through the facility. Full lockdown initiated. Find the half-breed. The human operative grins. Sounds like our exit just got more interesting. She hands Najum a small device that attaches to her wrist. Quantum entanglement shield. It'll mask your biosignature. As the device activates, Najum feels a strange tingling sensation as her hybrid biology becomes undetectable to Viridian scanners. For the first time in her life, her dual heritage has become an advantage rather than a stigma. 2 centuries of lies, she says, clutching the data core. The Council didn't just find human colonies abandoned after a tragic accident. They created the accident. And now humanity has returned to set the record straight. The operative replies, leading her toward an extraction point where a human shuttle waits, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to Institute security. The truth, Dr. Najum, is about to become very inconvenient for the Council. The human Armada doesn't attack as expected. Instead, each vessel positions itself at precisely calculated points throughout Council space. Military commanders across 17 species prepare for human vengeance, but confusion spreads as the human ships simply hold position. On the Althean flagship Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Krenzoth studies the tactical display with mounting anxiety. What are they waiting for? He demands of his senior staff. Our predictive algorithms suggest they should have launched their attack 47 minutes ago. Perhaps they're awaiting reinforcements, offers his tactical officer, her skin shifting to a troubled shade of indigo. Or perhaps, says the intelligence analyst, this is a strategy we haven't encountered before. Across Council space, similar conversations unfold as defensive fleets maintain combat readiness, while the human vessels remain motionless. Their positioning seems random at first glance, but deeper analysis reveals troubling patterns. Each human ship has stationed itself at a node point in the quantum communication network that binds Council worlds together. Admiral Chen stands on the Resurgence's bridge, watching the tactical display where friendly vessels appear as steady blue points amidst the swirling complexity of Council space. The view screen shows real-time feeds from a dozen perspectives. Council news broadcasts, military channels they've discreetly accessed, public reactions on various worlds. All ships in position, Admiral, her XO reports, his calm demeanor a counterpoint to the tension spreading through Council forces. Chen nods once, a small gesture containing 2 centuries of planning. Activate the quantum broadcast network. Throughout the fleet, specialized devices power up, tapping into the Council's own communication infrastructure while adding something new, a harmonic resonance that the Council's designers never anticipated. The technology doesn't hack or force its way in. It simply persuades existing systems to carry additional information, much like the wormhole technology persuades spacetime to reconfigure itself. Across thousands of worlds simultaneously, every communication device activates. Personal communicators, news terminals, military channels, educational systems. Council citizens from all species pause in startled surprise as their devices synchronize to a single broadcast. Dr. Najum's discovery plays for the entire galaxy to witness. The unedited historical records show Viridian and Althean leaders plotting humanity's isolation, calculating the deaths of billions as acceptable losses to halt human expansion. The cold statistical analysis, the deliberate decision to appropriate human territories under the guise of preservation. On the Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Krenzoth watches in horror as his own predecessor discusses the strategic necessity of crippling a rival species. The bridge falls silent except for the damning testimony playing on every screen. In desperation, he gives the order. Target the nearest human vessel and fire. They're manipulating our networks. Weapon systems powered up, target locks engage, and energy buildup reaches critical threshold. Then silence. The weapons deactivate mid-trajectory. On their bridge, control systems display a simple message. We could destroy you. We choose not to. When they try to restart systems manually, a more detailed message appears. Your weapons utilize quantum targeting algorithms based on technology adapted from human designs found in our abandoned outposts. We understand them better than you do. We have chosen peace despite what was done to us. Make your choice wisely. On 17 Council worlds, citizens gather in public spaces, their understanding of history rewritten in real time. Ancient Viridian and Althean leaders, revered in historical accounts, now stand revealed as architects of a civilization-scale crime. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Okafor stands before the assembled representatives, her expression solemn. We have shared the truth with everyone, not just those in power. The decision about what happens next belongs to all Council citizens, not just their leaders. The Mizari representative, all 16 sensory appendages trembling, breaks the shocked silence. You could have destroyed us. Your technological advantage is clear. Yes, Okafor acknowledges simply, "But that isn't who we became during our isolation. We learned that survival requires more than domination. It requires connection, adaptation, and sometimes forgiveness." The humans demonstrate in one synchronized moment what the Council races most feared. Humanity hasn't just returned. They've transcended. The newly reorganized Council chamber feels different. The circular arrangement of seats now truly equal, with Earth's position restored. Gone are the elevated platforms that once gave Viridian and Althean representatives symbolic dominance. Sunlight streams through the crystal dome, casting rainbow patterns across the ancient floor where representatives from 23 species gather for the historic session. 3 months have passed since humanity's dramatic return and the revelation of the Council's deception. The period has seen tumultuous change, the resignation of compromised officials, public demonstrations across dozens of worlds, and intense diplomatic negotiations. Ambassador Okafor stands at the center of the chamber, her silver-white braids now incorporating threads of gold that catch the light as she moves. She presents the Harmony Accords, a data crystal containing the comprehensive agreement establishing collaborative development zones in formerly human territories. "We don't seek to reclaim what was taken, but to create something better together," she explains as the crystal's contents display in holographic form above the gathering. The Harmony Zones will be jointly administered, with research and resources benefiting all participating species. The Drekin representative, newly appointed after his predecessor's involvement in the cover-up was exposed, studies the proposal with reptilian intensity. "Your generosity is unexpected, Ambassador. Many would demand reparations after such injustice. 2 centuries of isolation taught us to value connection over possession," Okafor replies. "Besides, we bring something more valuable than territorial claims, innovation that can benefit everyone." Outside the council hall, citizens watch the proceedings on massive displays. The once mighty human armada transforms before the galaxy's eyes. Military vessels reconfigure in orbit around key worlds, weapon systems retracting as modular research components extend. The ships that arrived as potential harbingers of vengeance metamorphose into exploration vessels, research platforms, and humanitarian transports, though their defensive capabilities remain unmistakable. On Terra Nova, the first re-established human colony, schools welcome students of 17 species. Children who would never have interacted under the old council protocols now collaborate on projects incorporating multiple scientific traditions. In the research district, Dr. Najam leads a mixed-species team developing wormhole stabilization technology. Her dual heritage, once a source of discrimination, now symbolizes the new collaborative approach. "The quantum fluctuations stabilize when we apply the Mizari resonance formula," she explains to her team, which includes former Director Fax's nephew, a young Viridian determined to redeem his family's legacy through scientific contribution rather than political manipulation. Above them, ships of human design but diverse crews navigate newly established routes, carrying the Renaissance to stars that had forgotten humanity's touch. Earth-born technologies merge with council traditions, creating hybrid systems more efficient and sustainable than either could achieve alone. Admiral Chen watches from her office window as Althean and Viridian children play with human counterparts in the plaza below. The scene would have been unimaginable when she was a young officer, watching helplessly as the quantum corridors collapsed. Her gray hair catches the light of a sun she never expected to see again in her lifetime. "They thought us gone forever," she muses to her XO as they prepare for the decommissioning ceremony, where the resurgence will officially transition from flagship to exploration vessel. "Instead, we came back stronger, not just as survivors, but as the architects of a new age." "Was it worth the wait?" her XO asks, adjusting his dress uniform for the ceremony. Chen smiles, watching a young human Viridian hybrid child demonstrating microgravity manipulation to her fascinated playmates, a simple toy based on the technology that powers their greatest chips. In that child's hands lies the future they had fought for, not domination, but integration, not memory, but possibility. Look at them, she says simply. 2 centuries of separation taught all our species the same lesson. We achieve more together than we ever could apart. As the sun sets on the new Council era, humanity's Armada no longer roars as a threat, but hums with the promise of exploration, discovery, and connection. A symphony rather than a battle cry, composed by a species that returned from exile not to conquer, but to collaborate.